Hey everybody, this is Johnny with Garden Valley Brewing, and of course we are here today with our brew assistant Chico. And today we're going to start a double brew session. We're going to brew a 5-gallon batch of Julie's The Glass is 1/4 full pale ale, and then we're going to also brew a 5-gallon batch of Special Agent Johnny's IPA, also known as frickin' bodacious India Pale Ale. Okay, we're about ready to get started here. We've got our 2 brew pots that we got from Winco, cheap grocery store in the area. 10 gallons each. 6 gallons of water per batch. Gonna lose some in the boil, so we'll end up with 5 hopefully. Got 2 propane tanks so I can boil at the same time. Ingredients wise, for Julie's The Glass is 1/4 full pale ale. All the ingredients here came from northernbrewer.com. I'm gonna use 6 pounds of gold malt extract. 1 pound of Ashbury specialty grains. Essentially it's a Belgian Cara B number 8. Give us a little color, give us a little character. That grain bag there is to soak the grains when it's time. I'm going to use 3 ounces of Cascade here. Cascade hops. As far as Special Agent Johnny's IPA goes, 6 ounces of malt extract again. Let's see, 1 pound of caramel malt 60L, give us some color, some flavor. Going to throw 1 pound of corn sugar in there, ratcheted up the fermentables so I can get more alcohol, 6.5 hopefully. 9 ounces of hops, 3 ounces of Citra, 3 ounces of Amarillo, 3 ounces of Cascade at different points in the brewing process, and we will talk about that. Irish moss, a teaspoon with 10 minutes left. And each boil helps clarify the wort, the beer. Get some of the crap out of there so it's not a cloudy beer. It may still turn out cloudy, but who cares? And Marissa, if you're watching this video, you need to get your damn hat and sunglasses out of my brewery. As far as yeast goes, I'm going to use good old US-05 Saf Ale. Not going to make a yeast starter or anything. I'm just going to sprinkle it in the wort when it's cooled down to pitching temp, and I've had good results doing that. Here it is, Saf Ale dry yeast, US-05, 1 whole packet per batch. And then before we can begin, of course we have to sanitize every single thing that the beer will touch once the beer has cooled. So I got to sanitize my 2 fermenters, 1 per batch, and all my little implements here I'm going to use. So I'm going to get started doing that. And I'm just going to put my water in my buckets here for sanitation purposes. Well, because these valves on these kettles will most likely have cooled wort coming through them, I open these up whenever I'm sanitizing the rest of the equipment. Got a little brush here, and I get them all cleaned up and sanitized so we don't create a source of infection here. So if you got these valves, I recommend you do it. Alright, we got our 6 gallons of water in each pot, and I'm soaking our specialty grains in each pot as well. The left pot's going to be my IPA. I'm going to soak these specialty grains until this temperature gets to about 150. Anything higher than that could cause some astringent flavors that are extracted from the husks of the grain. So we're going to go ahead and get this up to a boil. And once this water's boiling, I'm going to pull these pots off and stir in our malt extract and additional stuff. The water I'm using here is spring water from the store. Don't use the tap water here because there's a lot of sulfur in the water and some other metals, and I think it would just impact the flavor of the beer. So that's where we are. We're waiting for a boil. So just on a side note, so you can kind of see what our specialty grains do. This is the IPA on the left. can see the grains that I'm soaking there, I'm giving that kind of a reddish tinge. Whereas the grains on the right here are giving us more of a yellow golden color. And then of course each grain is adding its own level of sweetness and other character. So yeah, you can steep different specialty grains in these extract beers and really get the sort of the same, or close to the same quality and flavor profile you get from an all-grain brew. And we've got the brewing assistant on the job. I just pulled the grain bag out of the pot. He's trailing it back and probably catch himself on fire. Hey Chico, get away from it. Alright, so I pulled the grain bag out of this one because we had hit 150. Still got a ways to go on the IPA here. So we'll let that go. You can see even more red character here compared to the more yellow character here. Now I'm going to sample a little Bunny and Rico's Shredded Couch Cream Ale, and you can see that stuff really cleared up nicely. And all in all, it turned out to be a halfway decent beer. I wasn't too impressed with it here a month and a half ago when it got bottled, but pretty good stuff. By the way, you're supposed to drink when you're brewing, so just so you know. Okay, I yanked the grain bag from the IPA because we hit 150. You can see we got a really nice red color to that beer so far. And here's the pale ale. Kind of a yellowish golden color. Alright, as soon as we get these guys to boiling, we'll go ahead and we'll pull the pots off the burners and stir in our malt extracts and then bring it back up to a boil. Okay, we got to boiling, so now we're going to stir in our malt extract. So a little trick here with this stuff is to drop it in the water for a few. I've already done this for a while. Kind of warm up that extract, it'll be easier to pour out. Now, we'll try a little trick here. Normally I would pour in everything, stir it up and do a full boil. However, to get better hop efficiency, I'm only going to put in half of my extract now and the other half with 15 minutes left in the boil. So I'll just put half of this in this pot. This will be about half. And I'll put the other half in this pot. Now, best to stir it up there, obviously. We're not going to do it while we're on the flame, because it'll that hot flame burn in there. It might burn the malt extract to the bottom of the pot. We don't want that, because burn flavor. Well, it may not be that bad, but I say let's not do it. Still trying to get all this out of there. Kind of runs kind of slow, but it's a lot looser since we soaked it in the hot stuff. All right, this looks pretty good. So we'll throw these dudes back on the burners and get them back up to boiling. So if you've watched some of our other videos, you know that when we get to this boiling point here, it can be one heck of a mess if you're not paying attention. So I'm kind of taking a heck of a chance here, running two of these at the same time, because I got to mind the flame so we don't get a boil over. So I think what I'm going to do, I don't want to boil over, so I'm going to turn this dude down just a bit, and I'm going to manage this guy first because I think this guy's ready to to go at any moment. So we're getting that hot break building up here. You can see it. The hot break is building and building and building. Okay, I think because we've only added half of the malt extract, that we're not going to get that explosive boil over we normally get. Pretty happy about that, actually. So I'm going to turn this other guy back up. And as soon as I see a nice rapid boil on both of these guys, we're going to put some hops in these puppies. Okay, we got a pretty good boil going here, and this is our IPA. So it is, probably can't see that clock, but it's about 7:35, so we're going to call this a 60-minute period. I'm going to put in 1 ounce of Cascade and 1 ounce of Amarillo hops for bittering. So that's 2 ounces of hops. In they go. This could cause a boil over, so you got to watch that. See, it wants to, but I think we're in good shape because we don't have so much malt in there. Yeah, so everything looks good. Excellent. Alright, so I'm going to boil this now. Well, hold on now. Might have us a little issue developing. And she's building up a little bit. I might have to back off the heat so she calms down. Let's see. I don't know, it might be okay. Yeah, we're getting up there. I'm going to back the heat off just a bit till this settles down. Okay, it's still boiling pretty well. Let's turn down some more heat here. Alright, so now we got a real good boil going. The hops are in this one. Looks like everything is under control here. And turn up the heat just a bit. Not too much. I don't want to lose too much water in the boil. And there we are. So we're going to let this one go. And at about the 45-minute mark, I'm going to start adding my flavor hops. And this is also the time that we will add the rest of the malt extract to the IPA here. Okay, as I feared, while I'm messing with the IPA, the pale ale boiled over just a bit. I didn't lose too much. See, the levels are about the same there. See, I got a little bit, but I caught it just in time. So I've turned the heat down, and we still have a pretty good boil, so it's time to put some hops into this dude. And he is going to get 2 ounces of Cascade. Okay, we're going to drop 2 ounces of Cascade in our pale ale here. And we're going to try and keep an eye on that because that sucker's going to want to go, as you can see. Alright, so we're doing alright there. Just 740 on this one. So 45 minutes from now. Actually, for the pale ale, I'm not so worried about the flavor hops as much as I am about the aroma. So I think what I'm going to do on the pale ale here, 2 ounces of Cascade are going to give it a nice bittering and a pretty good flavor, and I think I'll drop in the last ounce of Cascade right when we turn off the flame. But in 45 minutes we'll stir in the rest of the malt extract. Okay, we added 3 more pounds of malt extract to the pale ale and put that back on the flame. So I'm going to have to keep my eye on that, and we need to boil that 15 more minutes. Then I went ahead and added 3 pounds of malt extract to our IPA at the 45-minute mark. Now I'm going to put in this pound of corn sugar that I'm going to stir in once I get it all in there. And then I'm going to put that back on the flame as well for another 15 minutes. And there'll be some hop additions on this dude as soon as I get him back on the flame. So once these start boiling again, we'll be at the 15-minute mark. And it's time to put our Irish moss in each pot. This is going to take some of the crap out. If you look at this beer, you can see there's a lot of particulates in there right now. Some of that's hop leaves, some of that's grain solids from the grains we soaked, and some of it's just crap. So what I'm going to do is put about a teaspoon of Irish moss, scientific measurement right here, that's a teaspoon. I'm just going to dump it in and then stir that in there. And then what that's going to do is once we get back to a boil here for the next 15 minutes, it's going to help coagulate all those proteins and stuff together and make them drop out of the beer, so we get a clearer pale ale than we would have gotten any other way. So that's we're going to let this dude boil again, hopefully soon, and the pale ale here will be just boiling for 15 minutes, and then when we turn off the flame, we're going to drop in an ounce of Cascade and just let it sit there for a little bit. And here goes another scientific teaspoon of Irish moss into our IPA. Bada boom. Turn that up a bit. You can see the addition of the 3 pounds of extract has certainly slowed down the boil a bit, but we're coming back, so that's good. Okay, our IPA hasn't yet gotten back to boil. When it starts boiling, then we'll boil for 15 more minutes. However, I think we're going to be boiling pretty quick, so I'm going to put in some flavor hops here. So I'm going to put in, I can't see it here, but I'm going to put in an ounce of Cascade and an ounce of Citra hops. And I'm just going to dump them in here. I'll have to keep an eye on it, I reckon, and see what happens. Okay, our IPA is boiling again, and it stir these hops in because they're certainly causing it to react. Looks like everything's under control. Okay, 15 more minutes on this one as well. And then we're going to dump in our aroma hops here. We turn the flame off and let them steep for about 15 minutes, I think, before we start cooling the beer off, or the wort. Okay, I've turned the flame off on the pale ale. It's been about 15 minutes since we added the additional extract. We drop in 1 ounce of Cascade. Pop a lid on that dude. Let that steep for a while, say about 10 minutes maybe. And then we will start cooling that beer off before we put it in the fermenter. Okay, while our IPA continues to boil, I'm going to take the immersion chiller and drop it into the pale ale pan while it's still above boiling, where the hops are steeping right now, just for some extra sanitation. And then I'm going to go ahead and hook up water to the immersion chiller here in about 5 minutes and start cooling that pale ale off. And when that starts going, we'll come back to our IPA here and we'll drop in some additional aroma hops and turn the flame off on this one. Okay, we're going to turn the flame off to the IPA here. Okay, I'm going to put in an ounce of Citra and an ounce of Amarillo. I'm going to let them steep for a while. Put it on there. Alright, and then we'll go outside and start cooling the other beer. Okay, we've got the immersion chiller going outside here. The cold water is going into the coil. And then coming out of the coil is the heat being displaced from inside the pot. Going out the other hose. It's right out here. So you got the cold in. This is pretty hot coming out. Coil's down in there. And the hot water being displaced over here. And we'll just let that go. And we can keep track of it here. We got a long way to go. We need to get to 80 or below. Temperature check here. Gone down pretty quick here in about 5 minutes, really. From 180 to 130. So we'll just let it keep going. Well, we got a bit of a delay regarding the cooling of the beer. It's not too bad, but it was 100 degrees today, so the water coming out of the faucet outside is not super cold like it normally would be. So it's just taking just a bit longer to cool off the pale ale. The IPA here was just still steeping those hops that we put in. Those will be the aroma hops that will impart some flavor as well. Let those dudes do that and wait for the other one to cool. Okay, so we cooled off the pale ale and then we went ahead and we strained it through this strainer into this nice sanitized bucket. Then we dumped that sanitized bucket into our fermenter here. And now we've used our wine thief here. Grab some of it, and now we're going to take a hydrometer reading to see where we're at for original gravity. Okay, so if you remember the hydrometer reading video that I did, you know, we're going to measure at the bottom of the meniscus here, and just kind of can't focus it too well, but we're at about 1042. 1.042 original gravity. This is a pale ale that we're talking about after all, so we don't want to be too high. So I'll write that on the board, and I'm going to calculate expected ABV. Okay, so using a alcohol by volume calculator, ABV calculator on the internet, just Google it. I expect the final gravity on this beer to be probably around 1.012, maybe lower. So I'm going to say this beer is going to wind up being about 4% alcohol, pretty good for a pale ale. You know, something you can drink a couple of them and not stumble out of here. So that's good. So we'll just wait for the IPA to cool off, and we'll see where we are with that. Okay, so I'm not going to keep the fermenter in the brewery here. I'm going to take it inside tomorrow morning, but I don't want to wake up anybody inside the house right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put our yeast in here now. Give that a chance to get going. So we got our Saf Ale here. I get it to cooperate. Okay, so I got a little pack of yeast here, and we're just going to dump it right in. The airlock back on. This system has a tendency to lift up on the blue lid, with the when the CO2 begins to build up inside the fermenter. So I bungee that lid down using these handles here. Go to the other handle and bungee it down. So anyway, I'll take this inside tomorrow, and then it'll ferment at around 70, 75 most likely, where I'm going to put it. And we will check on this dude in about a week. And tomorrow, if it starts to get some fermentation action, I'll film that and I'll show that in the video. So just waiting on the IPA to cool off. Okay, so the IPA is probably going to come out to be about 5.5% alcohol. Not what I was shooting for. Was hoping for 6.5. I have to assume that the only thing I did different here is normally I put all 6 pounds of extract into the boil in the beginning, and I changed it up here. Tried an experiment where I put half the extract in at the boil and the other half with 15 minutes left in the boil. Should try to increase our hop utilization. So yeah, we'll see how they come out. I mean, no complaining here. I'll drink a pale ale that's 4% and certainly drink an IPA that's 5.5. So I'll bring the other fermenter in, and we'll go from there. All right, so there's our two beers side by side. We've got probably a little bit less IPA than we do pale ale. And I could add water to it right now and bring the level up. That would certainly dilute the ABV though, and I don't want to do that. So I will put yeast into the one on the left, the IPA. Do that right now. They'll sit out here tonight. Tomorrow they'll go into the room where I do my fermentation. And in another week, we will transfer these guys to the secondary. Lessons learned, I would say, if you're going to split up your malt extract, I think you're going to need some more to hit your target final gravity. It didn't seem to go high enough, if you ask me. So, that's what I'll do next time. I'll add some more fermentables in there. And that way I can add some more water to the boil. I was limited to 12 gallons of water today. And I probably would have liked to put 7 in each brew pot, but I had to put 6. So I think that contributed to the lower amount of beer. But in the end, we should have about 4 gallons of each. And we'll put them in a keg, and they last as long as they last. And okay, so I will film these guys tomorrow when fermentation begins. So one other comment or observation. I tasted both beers before I put the yeast in, and they were noticeably more bitter than the other beers that I've made in the past. So I would say that splitting your malt extract in two, doing half up front when you hit the boil and doing the other half with 15 minutes left, will certainly improve hop efficiency as far as bitterness go anyway. We'll find out more regarding flavor when we get past fermentation and we can start to actually see this wort become beer. Okay, we've got our fermenters in their final resting place for their primary fermentation anyway. And you can see Kreuzen is beginning here. A little yeast activity. tell by the little foam on top, it's going to get worse. And we've got activity in the airlocks. If you watch this one, it's going to bubble. You can see a bubble in there. It's a good sign. Yeast are starting to eat. And our other one here, starting off a little slower, but you can see we got some bubbling activity. So that's a good thing. It's been less than 12 hours. We're going to go ahead and let the yeast eat away here. And it typically takes about 5 days. And we'll probably take a look at these on Sunday. If there's no more activity, no more bubbling, then we'll transfer them to a secondary device. We'll most likely take another hydrometer reading at that time to see how far down we got our reading, so we can sort of get a better idea on what the ABV will be on each beer. Okay, we've got really good fermentation going on both fermenters. You can see the krausen has really built up there, and our airlocks are rocking and rolling. This here is the pale ale, and IPA. If you look real close at the fermenter here, you can see a little swirling action in there. Yeast just going crazy inside there. This is the IPA. Has more sugar in it, so it's to be expected that we'd see something like that. Here in the pale ale, not so much. I mean, you can see some of the yeast rising up and going up and down, so there's still some pretty good activity in there. And of course, by the airlock, we can tell that we have activity going anyway, as well as the krausen right there. So, all right. Wait till it ferments out, until they both ferment out, and then we will transfer them to a secondary vessel. Okay, so now we're transferring our pale ale to my secondary, which in this case is going to be a keg. And that way I can just put this right in the kegerator here in about a week and put it on tap. And this is about just about 4% alcohol is what this came out to be. Okay, we're going to dry hop the IPA before we transfer that into the secondary. 1 ounce of Citra, 1 ounce of Cascade, 1 ounce of Amarillo is going in there, and then the beer is going on top. And that'll sit there for a week, maybe 2. We'll see what it tastes like. We'll check it as we go. Beer going on top of the hops. And then this fermenter will sit, like I said, for a week or 2. See what it tastes like. Okay, well, I've decided, since I've got the pale ale in the keg already, I'll just let it age right here in the kegerator. Get it down to cooling temperature. That'll probably help drop out any other particulates that we have in the beer. Clear it up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and just force carbonate it right now. So I've got this turned up to about 28 psi. I'm just going to let that pump in there for about 2 days. So that ought to do it. I'll check it after a day. We don't want it too carbonated. But yeah, this should be ready to drink now. Today being Tuesday, this should be ready to drink by Thursday. I just took a little glass of it, and it tasted real good. Nice light pale ale, 4% alcohol. You'd be able to sit around and drink several of these and drive home. So there it is. It'll be ready on Thursday. We'll do a taste test. Still waiting on the IPA. It's going to be a while. We got to dry hop that for a week or 2. And that will go on in place most likely of Elysian Super Fuzz here, because I just picked that keg up and apparently someone's been drinking quite a bit of it while I've been gone. So there's maybe a gallon left. I suspect that'll be dead by Thursday or the weekend. I'm going to take Chico's Independence Day English Coffee Pale off. It's got a real strong coffee flavor. Probably too much, but I think it's a perfect beer to blend with some porters and some stouts. get a coffee flavor, I might take a gallon of it, put it in a keg, and then rack 4 gallons of other beer on top. If I want a coffee character to that beer, and I think it'll come out real good because it has a great flavor. It's just a lot of coffee. So anyway, that's where we are. You can see there was our starting and final gravity for Julie's Pale Ale. I haven't put the other one in here. I'll do that here in a few, and then we'll calculate what the IPA is going to be. Okay, so I've put in the final gravity of Special Agent Johnny's FBI PA. Starting was 1052, finals 1012. It's going to give us about 5.25% alcohol by volume. Would have preferred another percentage. It's not really an IPA when you're in the grand scheme of things at 5.25, but it's going to be pretty darn hoppy, so I'm going to call it that. And we will go from there. So we will get that on tap in a couple weeks, taste test that as well. Okay, so we got the FBI PA and dry hopping for about, probably 5 days right now. So, I like to use this vessel for dry hopping because I can go ahead and, pull a little off and see where I'm at, see if I like it. So that's what we're going to do now. Get a little bit here, if I can get it to work. So yeah, we'll pull a little off here and we'll give it a shot. Alright, so we pulled a little off. Quite a bit of hop flakes in there to be expected right now until it all settles out. And smelling real good. Not exactly where I want it though. Tasting good, but still needs time. So we'll go another 5 days. Okay, we kegged up the Special Agent Johnny's FBI PA, came out 5.25%. So it's good to go. And that was a double brew day video. Thanks for watching. As always, our Garden Valley Brewing videos are filmed at beautiful Terrace Lakes Resort in Garden Valley, Idaho. This is Johnny with Brewing Assistant Chico. Until the next video, stretch those livers.